All right. So I hope everyone had a good day. It is Thursday, the 27th of April. We had a pretty crazy move today on NQ and ES. NQ especially. We rallied 300, almost over 300 points today in a single day, which is crazy. So I want to talk about how did I, why did I have a long bias going into today? How was I expecting these levels to get taken? Now, I was not expecting these levels to get taken in a single day, but I was expecting these levels to get taken. And then what was my mistake that I made today with taking the trade? And, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? So going into today, I did have a bullish bias on both ES and NQ. Again, if we look at our, bigger time frames, starting out at the daily, we have a daily fair value gap on NQ. We've been continuing to hold this. We pushed through it and then gapped back right back up. If we look at the 1 hour, we just swept this big sell side liquidity level. And then we had that, big displacement back in the range, right? That's what we want to see for a liquidity sweep, right? If this is a low, we want to see a push right back in the direction into that range for it to go in the other direction. So that's exactly what we wanted. Pulled back into this 15-minute fair value gap that we had on NQ, had an SMT at the lows. At this time, ES was forming a lower low and then pushed up, retraced one more time in this 15-minute fair value gap, and then hit buy side liquidity. So there was a potential long trade here, but this was in the overnight session. Fair value gap targeting, equal buy side here. But real thing I want to look at is if there was a setup targeting these highs here. So that's what I want to look at on ES. Going into today, I was long biased, but I was long biased until we got some sort of high being swept. So I was long biased until on ES, until this high got swept. I wanted to see what was going to happen once this high was swept, on NQ, and then on ES, I wanted to see what was going to happen once this high was swept. So I want to look back, go with the opening. I'm going to bring up ES and NQ here, and I want to dive in to the open. And I wanted to see if there was any sort of trade that we could have taken to target the draw. And I was confident that the draw on liquidity was these highs. So let's go to the open here. Now, I did think to initially have a short bias, but a little bit, I was zoomed in at the open. I was looking to see how this 15-minute level would react. Just because, again, we've been having big selling pressure. I was expecting that maybe we could take this high out and then go back lower. But again, on a bigger time frame, we're super bullish. Swept that low, big displacement, holding a fair value gap. So this was most likely going to be the draw. So one thing I like to say as well is once we, oh my God, voice crack. Once we break above one of these higher time frame levels and we are looking to short, if we do not get our setup in something on a bigger time frame, then we do not take that trade, right? Because we can go right through it like we did today. And the fault that I made today is I was too zoomed in. So looking at the time frames here, starting on NASDAQ, let me look if there was any sort of long trade here. So going in at the open, pre-market session open here. We just sort of, again, yeah, we just chopped in the morning. I remember this. But we did take this buy side level out. I want to look at bigger time frame, see if there's any sort of fair value gap here. Not really. Looks like we were just kind of holding this area. ES at the time. I want to look at ES here. So we put that low in. Yeah, ES did not take that high out. So I was a little bit short biased. I was thinking that we were going to possibly put in an SMT. Because at the time, NQ took this high out. ES never really did. Started to come back down again. At this point, I was waiting for a break of structure, right? Because we took out this 15-minute high. Now I'm waiting for a break of structure, but we never got it. I was watching it to be this low. I was looking for a breaker block. So this would have been my market structure shift, but we never got it. So there was no short trade, right? We were continuing to be bullish. Looking at the lows here, I don't see any really SMT here. So it looks like we just straight up went to buy side. I don't really see any setup here. Again, we just continue to really rally. And this was not a short setup, right? Now, this looked like it could be a short setup. And the reason why I said that not take this is because the draw. right? We have market structure shift, we have a fair value gap, but why do you not take this short? Because if we zoom out, we are right next to this high, which means the draw on liquidity is most likely going to be this high. We're going to most likely break this high. So when we get a break of structure or a fair value gap before that high is taken, you don't short that, right? So we were looking at this and I was thinking about taking a short and I stopped myself because the draw on liquidity is this. You'll most likely get all these fair value gaps will get ran through because you haven't taken that high out yet. So once this high got broken, this is a short setup. And for me, I want to start building more confidence in scalping like this. I might start soon. I'll tell you guys if I'm sort of testing strategies. But one thing that I've been gaining more confidence in recently is when we break above a bearish fair value gap or we break below a bullish fair value gap like this, when we close above this fair value gap and we fail to reject lower, we're most likely going to head to whatever that buy side level is. So for this is internal. Then we have that external level. And if there's a fair value gap created there, like there was here, right? We had this fair value gap and we also had this fair value gap. So you could have entered, we touched that bottom one. Once we break above this fair value gap, continue to hold. Most of the time we'll go to that, whatever that liquidity level. So this would have been a nice little scalp pullback, longing to that first high and then letting it run to that buy side level. That would have been a possible scalp. Once we broke through that, if we look at a bigger time frame as well, we were holding a 5-minute fair value gap. So trading to that buy side, again, building confidence, scalping to the draw is what I want to work on. That's my biggest thing I want to focus on in the coming month is mastering scalping to the draw on liquidity. Because normally I want to wait for the draw on liquidity. But since I've been so spot on with the draw recently, and I've built up such a confidence with what I think the draw is and what level is going to be taken next, I want to see if I can perfect my entries in building high quality setups and models to target the draw on liquidity. So this would be a nice example of that, right? What do we see here that could align with whatever our strategy is? Remember, we took this ES short, or I took this ES short, and I ended up stopping out at break even. We had a break of structure. We had a fair value gap here. I entered short on the fair value gap. We had a sell off. My first PT was these equal lows, never got hit, unfortunately. And then I ended up stopping it out at break even. Now, the reason I stopped this out at break even is because we were forming SMT. I was expecting ES. Again, ES never took out that buy side level yet, right? So I'm confident that ES draw on liquidity is going to be this high. So once I take this short and I see its initial sell off, I notice we're not selling off as much as I want to, and we're forming a bullish SMT at the lows, right? ES is making lower lows, NQ is making higher lows, most likely expecting the guest to get a bounce on ES. Again, no really, long setup here. You could have traded this off the break of structure if you wanted to after the SMT, but no fair value gap pullback to whatever. It was just straight move to the upside here. Looking at NQ, once we got that pullback or pushed through this fair value gap, again, showing that sellers are not present here. We're forming SMT at the lows. We're holding a 5-minute. We know the trend is overall bullish. We know the draw on liquidity is this high. That's what I want to, build confidence with is, taking trades like this to the trend, basing your thesis off what you think the draw on liquidity is. So the rest of the day, let's go to the short setup, the L that I took. Where was it? I think it was right here. Yeah. So why did I take number one? Why did I take this trade and why was it a loss? And what could I take from this trade going into the future? So we had this external level on a 1 hour. Looking at NQ, we had this buy side level. I was really confident. I liked this trade. We had a big push up. I was expecting, I wanted to see some selling pressure start to come in. Now, what was my mistake here? This is a 1 hour high. This is a 1 hour buy side liquidity high. The mistake I made with this trade is I was focused on trying to find a 1-minute model on a 1 hour liquidity sweep, right? If we're trading a 1 hour liquidity sweep, we need at least a 5-minute model for something to, actually prove us that we're going to, reject. If we're too zoomed in on a 1 minute, we're going to get faked out, right? Because if we were to short this would have been our market structure shift. We need some sort of higher time frame low, like the 5-minute, for us to put in something and then break this. If we were to get that low put in and then come down to break this, that would be a valid short setup. But since I'm zoomed in on the 1 minute, I ended up getting faked out because I wasn't realizing that we have a bigger time frame liquidity sweep, right? I had my market structure shift, I had a fair value gap, I had everything I wanted, but I was too zoomed in on the 1 minute. So the lesson learned from today for me, and I think for everyone here, always know what level you're taking. If you're trying to trade a liquidity sweep off of a 15-minute time frame, then that is when we dial into the 1 minute, right? That's when we dial in. If we can get a 15-minute high, dial into the 1 minute. Like for example, this trade on NQ, we had this 15-minute high. Now, okay, we have a 15-minute high, lower time frame. So now we can kind of zoom in on a 1 minute and see if we can get some sort of setup. And you'll notice if we're taking lower time frame sweeps like a 15-minute or a 30-minute, most of the time the 1 minute models will be clean, right? We had market structure shift, we had a pullback to fair value gap, and we got a beautiful sell off. But if we are trading off of a 1 hour high like this, right? A clear 1 hour high, you have to see something on a higher time frame like a 5 minute and not zoom into that 1 minute. So that was my mistake today, is I was too zoomed in and I failed to see sort of the bigger picture. Now I was confident because a lot of people like I got a lot of questions where it was like I saw your video, you were long biased. How did you take a loss today, right? Because I'm long biased until that high gets swept, but I was too zoomed in because that high was a 1 hour. So the goal is I want to start looking at potentially taking those trades to target that buy side. Now I do look for those trades, but I haven't really seen any clean setups yet, like actually, quality what I think is, but there's been a lot of setups. So for me, it's just building the confidence to take those trades. Now on ES, there probably wasn't really any long setup in my opinion. Looking at a 5 minute, the only really long setup that I would take targeting buy side would honestly, there's not really anything here that I like. Now, the only thing I would say would be taking this market, this break of structure. But the reason I don't like this is because we have equal lows below us. So that's what I don't like about this trade. So there wasn't really any clean action on ES. Again, ES action has just been, I haven't not wanted to trade it at all recently. It's just been all over the place, low volume. And it's just been it's just been nasty. It hasn't been clean as clean as NQ has been. So I've been focusing on NQ more, and I honestly been really liking trading NQ more. So bias was right today. We knew the draw on liquidity. We were confident in the draw on liquidity. I was confident in us taking out these highs, but just not in one day. I was not expecting a 300-point move today. And I there's like people in the Discord that like acting like they expected to see a 300-point move today as well. And I was like, okay, bro. But I was confident in us getting a bounce in the coming days, especially with, my daily bias. Everything showed that we were going to get a bounce. I just didn't expect it to be this strong. I think a big part of it also is that we have a lot of earnings this week. Again, we had earnings push us up at the end of the day to take out that buy side level. Then we had that big sort of sell off. So looking at this going into tomorrow, I am short biased. Now, the reason I'm short biased is what happens after we get, a big day like this. Most of the time, you're going to get either consolidation, or a retracement, especially when we've taken out, a big level like this. Now, I do think the draw on liquidity is still this high, right? If we're looking at a daily time frame, if we're looking at the daily, we've continued to hold this fair value gap. We're most likely now the draw would be this high. Now, since we did take this, I would like to see a little bit lower before heading back. So where could we possibly retrace to? Number one, we want to see, is there any sort of, level or area we could possibly retrace to? Now, the first thing I see is I want to mark in this breaker block. Now, we do have a 4-hour breaker block here, and I would like to see us retrace into this level before heading up to take that external buy side level. But since we have swept this high and we had a big retrace back into the level, right? Looking at this, this would be, it's kind of hard to draw our model since we had that gap down. So I wouldn't really use anything here to base our thesis off of, but I would like to see lower before heading back higher. So going into tomorrow, I'm expecting some sort of consolidation. I'm expecting some sort of consolidation or retracement back down into this area. But since we have this gap down right here, I'd want to see what happens in the overnight session, because we have this gap now that I want to draw. And I want to see, is this going to get filled? Are we going to retrace this, reject it, and then come back down? Right? We just swept this big external high, retrace back into the zone. So now also what I want to do is whatever that manipulation move is, right? But that manipulation move is really rough because this is an earnings move. But if I was going to draw this in, which is, it's kind of hard to, because it's literally just one candle. If I was to draw this in, which, yeah, I don't like that at all. We'll look at a 1 minute here. Yeah, since we do have this earnings, it's just kind of awkward because we have this big candle here. And this was the move that swept that liquidity, right? Now we're starting to sell off. We just hit that internal sell side. So if we're looking at a bigger time frame, like a 15-minute, this would now be your market structure shift, is this low. So I would want to see a follow through of this low and then see some sort of setup to potentially ride this back down to this breaker block on a 4-hour. Now, if I draw in our fib here, right? We go from that high to the low. 50% is all the way down here. But I also want to zoom in and see what that previous low was. And for me, I think the previous low would be here instead of this, which 50% would be also as well in that breaker block area. So would like to see us come to discount before we retrace back to the high. So going into tomorrow, I am going to be short biased. We had a massive move today. Again, we could just chop tomorrow. We could sell off a bit. We could continue higher. But for me, since we did sweep this high, I would like to see a retrace back into this level and then head back to take out that external buy side. But I do think that we will take out this high in the coming days. Probably, I don't know if we'll do it at the end of the week. Again, tomorrow. Oh, wait, tomorrow's Friday. So probably not tomorrow. I mean, we could, but I definitely think next week we will take this high out. And that could provide us with a lot of opportunities. So we'll see. Any question? Let me read chat real quick. Where do you place your entry when it comes to a fair value gap? A bullish and bearish example would be dope. Wait, where do you place your entry when it comes to fair value gap? So if it's a 1 minute fair value gap, I'll just enter off it. It doesn't matter if it goes through it. Doesn't matter if it touches it. Doesn't matter if it goes to the midpoint. Right when it touches it, I will enter a position. Now, for example, this is the best one probably. 15-minute high swept here on NQ. Go down to the 1 minute. You have break of structure from the equal lows. You have a fair value gap right here. Right when this touches it, I will enter a short position. I didn't see a lot of posts in VFP Pro who those said they expected the big move. I know. That's the thing, guys. Stop trying to be right. You have, like, when you see me make a mistake, I will be the first one to say that I made a mistake, because I'm not going to, if you really want to improve as a trader, you have to acknowledge and accept that you make mistakes, because everybody does, right? If you're an ego trader that thinks that you just want to prove something to everybody, right? Where you just want to be right. It doesn't even matter if you're making money or not. You say, oh, well, I called this right. Oh, well, I called this right. I could do that all fucking day if I wanted to, but I'm not. If I make a mistake, that's the first thing I want to look at. I push my wins way more to the side than I would my losses, because my losses are going to be more important for me as the growing as a trader than my wins are. My losses are way more important for me to, acknowledge. I mean, they're both important because you want to see what you're doing right for your wins, but what you're doing wrong for your losses. But your losses are more important, in my opinion, because you're actually pushing your ego to the side and saying, hey, I made a mistake. Let me look at this and let me fix it. Because a lot of people can't do that. They don't want to acknowledge that they're wrong. People don't like being wrong. It's okay to be wrong, guys. You have to accept that. You have to push your ego to the side. It is okay to be wrong. And it is okay to admit that you're wrong, right? I run a Discord with hundreds of people that watch me every day. You think that's pretty hard for me to admit when I'm wrong, right? It is. But that's what you have to do. You have to. For you, if you really want to improve as a trader, you always have to acknowledge your losses, always acknowledge your mistakes, because if you want to improve, that's going to be your biggest factor. Going into the future, you have to learn from your mistakes and you have to push your ego to the side. It's not all about what's right and what's wrong. It's about, are you acknowledging what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong? It's not about showing or proving something to somebody else. Prove it to yourself. I think the idea of targeting scalps to the draw is something smart to look into for sure. It's the highest probability of a zone that get hit versus what could happen after, right? Yep. With that, though, would your confidence be the same as trading after the draw? Yes, it would. Okay, so good question. So, for example, this would have been a great trade. Now, look at this, right? We have this sell-off. We have an SMT formed. What is the draw in liquidity? The draw is this high, right? So, for example, let's replay this. We're coming into the low. We have an SMT. Let me pull up ES here. But keep in mind, this is on a 15-minute, so we have to figure out what would be our entry here. So ES sold off, forming a low, and then ES gets that bounce, right? So now we want to look at NQ, right? So NQ, the draw on liquidity is going to be this high, right? We swept external. We're pulling back into this 15-minute fair value gap. We're sweeping internal one more time. So now I'll zoom in here to a 1 minute. And let's see if there's any setups, right? Once we get that SMT formed. So now I want to see, big displacement back up, right? And I want to see some sort of, previous high getting swept, right? This wouldn't be it, right? Because you just go above it and then go right back down. You have, okay, boom. Oh, God damn it. I pressed spacebar. Let me go back. Speed it up for a little bit. Get back to where we were. All right. So we get internal swept at the low, right? That's what we want to see. Internal swept here. So now I want to see some sort of market structure. It could be this high, it could be whatever high. I want to see big displacement though. Okay, there we go. That's what I want to see, right? We have a high broken. We have a fair value gap. Looking at a bigger time frame, we have a 3-minute fair value gap, 4-minute, 5-minute, whatever it is, right? We want to see where our potential entry would be. Now, since we do have an SMT, you could enter off of a break of structure, right? That's how you enter turtle soups, is you don't need a fair value gap. You could enter off of a break of structure if you wanted to. Now, we also have a breaker block here. I would enter on this fair value gap if there's a pullback. So we pull back into this breaker block. I would long this. I don't need a 50% retracement. Since we have SMT at the lows, I just put my stop at this low. So this could be a trade to target the draw, right? Because on a bigger time frame, we're still in this 15-minute fair value gap. We have an SMT at the lows. We are confident that the draw on liquidity is this high. And then you just let it go. And then is there any setups inside this trade, right? There's always going to be other setups. So this is another one right here. We have liquidity swept, big move up. We have a break of structure. We have a fair value gap on a 15-minute. So now is there another setup here? Let's check. Go down to the 1 minute. So I would want to see these relative equal lows being swept first, right? So the internal draw is now this high. So the internal draw is now this high. So let's see what happens. Let me speed this up a bit. So I'd want to see us return back to this fair value gap. Remember, this is the after market session, so we'll see what happens, but should still react exact same. Still waiting. There we go. All right. Boom. There we go. Okay. So we've touched the fair value gap. We've swept internal, right? Look at all these equal lows. All these equal lows getting swept. We have a market structure shift at the high. We have a fair value gap. This would be your entry long. Now, what would your first price target be? Your first price target would most likely, I mean, this is the internal draw on liquidity right now. So this would be the draw on liquidity. Now you could scale at the highs, whatever it is, right? But you honestly, this is the type of trade where you want to let this run. You want to let this go. You want to let this make your money. And the reason is because everything is in your favor now. You're confident that the original draw was this high. So you're aiming for an internal high. You bounced off of a external fair value gap, another liquidity sweep, SMT at the lows, pull back, fair value gap. You should let this ride without taking a single take profit until this high is hit, in my opinion. Let it work for you, because this is low hanging fruit. This is easy. You should have insane amount of confidence that that high is going to be swept. So where would you put your stop loss here? Again, for me, I would want to keep it tight. And the only thing that I would really do for this top is I would put it at the low. So put it at the low. My first price target on this would be that high. Because what happens is this could maybe come back down, take the low out, and then form another setup, right? So I'm risking 3.5 on this trade. So I can get stopped out, enter again, and make more money on this trade, right? So we'll see how this will play out. We've already touched that fair value gap, so I'm just going to enter in. Again, this is just a replay, so we'll see how it plays out. Stop would be at the low. Let's see if there was any other setup. 5-minute fair value gap continuing to hold. Do we have anything on the 15-minute? Nope. Looking in. We have a 2-minute fair value gap here. And we also have this breaker block that we're continuing to hold. Breaker block pulled over, continuing to hold. And there you go. The draw on liquidity gets hit, right? So this is how we can find high probability setups using and having confidence in whatever the draw on liquidity is. This is a beautiful, beautiful setup in the aftermarket. We have everything we want, right? This is why we're using bigger models. We're using a model inside of a model inside of a model, right? Now, that would be your first PT. You could leave a runner. Honestly, just let it go. Put your stop to break even. Let one go. Leave it on for the day. And then don't remember it, right? Those are the trades that we want to take. And we haven't gotten a lot of these trades recently. And I'm upset about it because I want to provide you guys quality trades on the lives. Because on the lives, we've been getting straight ass. And it's pissing me off because I want to pull one of these bangers for you. And it's not hard. The market just needs to show me the opportunity, right? Where right now, this is just I'm not looking at the fucking market at 21 on a Wednesday. So this is a beautiful trade though. Something that we want to watch for and pay attention to and see if we can get a trade like this. Because we have everything we want. Everything is in our bias right now. We've swept external, right? Zooming out, we're bullish. External swept. SMT at the lows. We're holding a 15-minute fair value gap. We sweep internal liquidity one more time, bounce up, right? This is telling you alone. This right here is telling you alone that the draw is this high. You swept this low, immediate big displacement, market structure shift, SMT at the lows. This is the external sell side that is going to be hit easily. So this is this is like the lowest hanging fruit you could possibly have because you're trading an internal, liquidity sweep, whatever it is. And all of these models are lining up for you. So that is the best trades that we could possibly take. Now, for me, I like trading when we're in these big ranges like this. When we're in like a 15-minute, 1 hour range like this, this is when I'm going to get the biggest, most probable setups and the best returns. When we have days like today, is when when it's just straight up. I like us when we're in these ranges because those highs that get swept, it's going to be easy to detect what that draw on liquidity is. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities right here. For me, there's not a lot of opportunities. It's just straight up. So I don't even know what the fucking question was, bro. I'm sorry. How can you tell if a breaker block is going to be resistance or support? Most of the time it depends. If you're long and you have a breaker block, it should act as support. If you're short, it should act as resistance. For example, this is a breaker block right here. It's not the cleanest, but it is a breaker block, right? You have a big move up. Look at 2 minute, it'll probably be cleaner on a bigger time frame. Yeah, 2 minute, right? Big move up, big move down. You pull it over, and if your bias is this high already, this should now act as support. Anybody have any other questions on what we just talked about, or just anything in general? Again, I have been upset about the lives recently. I want to give you guys some banger plays, but the live, like, we've just been getting such bad action in the morning recently and a lot of good action in the afternoon. And I'm hoping that we can get something soon. But honestly, tomorrow doesn't look too promising because we had this big move up. I'm expecting some sort of consolidation. Instead of using Take Profit Trader, what are some other platforms? Why should I use it? Also, what type of funded goal should I go for? Is that a prop firm, Take Profit Trader? If it is, I recommend Funded Futures Network, which we have an affiliate code for that you can get 35% off, or you can do Apex. Apex has a 90% off sale right now. What time frame would one analyze to trade off the 5-minute chart? 5-minute? Oh yeah, I'm confused on the question. What time frame would one analyze to trade off the 5-minute chart? The 5-minute, right? Rephrase your question for me. Is there a possible long entry right now? No. If there's any entry right now, I think it would be short. I don't want to trade any. There's no setup here for me. Right now, there's nothing. I do want to see what ES is doing right now, though. Yeah, right. Yeah, don't touch this right now. Don't touch this right now. Let the market do whatever it wants to do in the overnight session. Again, ES and NQ both took out, big buy side levels. So we'll see what happens in the overnight session going into tomorrow. So to execute off the 5-minute, like 1 hour. If that's what you're saying, if you're trading off a 1 hour liquidity sweep or higher, you want to see a 5-minute model, which means 5-minute market structure shift, 5-minute breaker block. If you're trading off a 15-minute, you should trade on the model on a 1-minute chart. What type of account should I go for? I recommend a 50K or a 25K. Any last questions? Let's check news real quick. So we have pre-market news. That's pretty much it. Oh, we have more 10 a.m. news, 9:45 Chicago PMI. Again, orange folder, so not really too much importance of them, but they will affect the market. So that's something we want to pay attention to. On Apex, do I have a day minimum before I get approved? No, like what? Like for your evaluation, you can start the evaluation same day. I'm pretty sure they activate the account at 6 p.m. at night, I think. So you have to do it before 6. If you do it after 6, then you have to wait, I think. Or before 6, I'm not sure. Yeah, you need 7 trading days for Apex. Gotta like 5 minutes after you purchase it. Yeah, it depends what time you purchase it. You should get it instant if it's before 6, I think. Uh, do you market in every trade? Rephrase that for me. What do you mean? The discount, it should be save 90. So if we go to Apex, get started, 50K. Go here where it says enter coupon, save 90. That'll do it. But you got to put in the rest of your stuff first. But just do save 90. Do you market in every trade or limit order? Oh, gotcha. Most of the time I'll do limit order. So we are expecting tomorrow to retrace in a discount pricing on 4 hour. Then we see a draw liquidity, weekly high liquidity. Expecting to see tomorrow retrace discount pricing 4 hour. Then we can see a draw in liquidity. Yeah, I think so. Now we don't need to retrace to 50% for us to go higher, but I would like to see us go higher. I would like to see us retrace into this breaker block. So I'm expecting either consolidation tomorrow or sort of like a slow, like, again, it all depends what happens in the overnight session. So my bias could change going into tomorrow morning. It all depends on what happens in the overnight session. Question on FFN, the best daily profit under 40% is showing red on mine. Is that 40% based on the evaluation? Best daily profit is under 40%. Have you been following the consistency rule? You can only make 15% of your profit goal a day. If you go over that, then it'll increase your profit target. So if you make over 15% of your profit target, just take a quick trade and like lose a couple $100 and it'll go away. Yeah, make sure you guys read the email. Make sure you guys read all the rules and can I fuse my Apex account to TradingView platform? No, you can't. You can use NinjaTrader or you can use Tradeovate for Apex. Oh, wait. Well, I mean, technically you can, I think. Well, I mean, you can connect Tradeovate, so maybe you can. 50% for fast track, 40%. No, it should be 50% for both. Because you still have the consistency rule. See, maintain consistency. You still have to maintain consistency. That's just no minimum days, which this is why the express package it's not worth it. And the reason is because even if you have no minimum days, you still have to maintain consistency. So you're still most likely going to need 15 days. Trailing threshold means it's a trailing drawdown. So for example, this is how it works. All right. So this is my trailing stop, right? So if I, let's say I make $1,000, right? So, like the chart goes up, right? So my trailing stop is going to go up. So it's different though. For Apex and for FFN, it's different. The reason why I like FFN is if I lose that money and I go back down, this stays the same. So this stays the same. So your trailing stop does not increase. Now, if you go back up, it still doesn't increase. It only increases until you can break that, whatever that high was. So once you break that, then it'll go up whatever that was. So on Apex, if you go back up, that trailing stop will also go back up, even if you haven't met that original level. So it means you have to have consistency, because I can go up $1,000 and then lose $2,000 and then get liquidated, right? So that's why you have to control it. But with FFN, the trailing liquidation level only continues to go up if you're at the highest level of the account, if that makes sense. Any last questions, guys? Yeah, I got you, Manny. Is there a second profit target on FFN? No, it's just one. I'm still a little confused. Also, can you do daily withdrawals? Yes, on FFN you can. On Apex you can't. FFN you can withdraw as much as you want any day. You can make $1,000 same day. You can withdraw it the same day. It doesn't. You can. It's you have freedom. Apex you don't have freedom. All right, guys. I think I'm going to end the session there. We've been live for around 45 minutes. Went over a lot of good stuff. Again, like I said before, my biggest thing I want to focus on in the coming month is finding entries to that draw on liquidity. That's the biggest thing. So we're gonna continue to look at that, continue to watch whatever the draw on liquidity is. I'm curious to see what happens in the overnight session. Again, not trying to predict anything. We'll wake up, see what happens at the open. FFN versus Apex, what are the key differences? FFN allows you to withdraw as much money as possible and anytime. Apex, you can only withdraw twice a month and you're capped at what you can withdraw. Apex is cheaper. FFN is a little bit more expensive. The rules are a little bit different. There's a consistency rule with FFN. There's not a consistency rule with Apex. But the reason why I like FFN is it sets you up for success. If you cannot, anybody can pass an Apex account. Anybody can pass an Apex account. It's not hard. You can YOLO a single day and pass it in a single day, and then just, open a contract, close it the same day, and just mark off trading days. With FFN, you actually have to practice good risk management, good consistency, because you can't YOLO in one single day. That's why there's a consistency rule. If you go over that 15%, then it'll increase your profit target, right? So that's why I like it. Apex sets you up for failure because they don't actually want you to trade good. They just want you to make money. FFN, they want you to learn how to actually trade well, because by the time that you actually get funded, you'll be ready to actually trade it. A lot of people on Apex get funded and then they blow up their funded account and gets liquidated because they don't know how to actually trade an account, because they traded their valuation like a fucking idiot. All right, guys, that's all from me tonight. Enjoy the rest of your night. I will see you tomorrow morning. Or will you say Apex is legit and that once I find my way, will pay off so my mom will hear you? Okay. Apex is legit, I guess. All right. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Peace.